He's coming, coming, coming. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming, coming,
He
coming.
is here. He is here. Hey, Sister Queen. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Oh,
Hi, my brother.
hi, my sister. How are you? You look amazing.
I'm looking at you. Yeah, that makes me amazing because I'm looking at you. How's life? How's life?
Life is great, so we'll talk about a bunch of it, but one of the things that I'm called to do is working in the midst of this pandemic in the Office of Homeless Services in the city of Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
And so we just got news late last night that we're getting ready to receive our doses for our residents without addresses. So I've been in the office since before 8 o'clock this morning, getting the, John 9:4, I must work the work of the one who sent me while it is yet day, because night is coming when we can't work. So
hallelujah.
I'm trying to get the work done.
Yes. Now, Kevin, where does that come from? This great desire to serve people, to be of service.
I keep when people ask that question, it is as easy to answer as home. My mother, Louise Taylor, was a woman who figured out how to take her role in domesticity as a housemaker, as a cleaning. She was more than that. She was a housekeeper in those old Southern ways where she took care of the house while the family was doing something else.
Yeah.
And made it her business to be able to be mindful that your children had just worn these osh-posh bagage and outfits once or twice, and you ready to toss them. My mother took them home, washed them, ironed them, and had our linen closet sorted, boys and girls by size. And she'd meet somebody on the bus who had children, and next thing you know, she would go shopping on her shelves. And so when I came into ministry, Mama's declaration to me was, baby, your job is to save everybody and let the Lord sort it out. So that's what she's always been. And so it's funny to live long enough to hear your parents coming out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So it came from my mother, who somehow and poured that into me. She used to tell the story of when we were small in the project. We had an occasion where the Salvation Army came, and we each got 2 toys. And then she asked me one day where my other one was. I said, well, the other boy didn't have any, so I gave him one of mine. And so he got one, I got one. So.
Yeah, I was the same way. I gave away my bike one time. My mom was like, "You gave away your bike."
Right.
He didn't have one.
Right, he didn't have one at all. I at least got to ride mine for a little while. He had nothing.
Said, you ain't got one either.
He said, but I had one.
Yeah.
So it's just realizing that. I mean, I came from the people talk about the projects. I grew up in the projects in Southwest DC, and it just felt like community. I wasn't allowed to go to the store. If one of the ladies on the block, baby, you going to the store? Yes, ma'am. Did she hand you the money and her little separate note? You put it in a separate pocket of somebody else. It went in another pocket. It was just, we are the architects of It Takes a Village.
Amen. Amen. When did your call to the ministry come?
When did it? So it came early. I honestly knew as a little boy. I knew the first time I walked into church that something was going on. I thought it was just the spirit thing. I think somewhere in my teens, and that stuff where you get called to orate, called to MC the youth program, that I thought, And then, just because, old Black Baptist preacher used to have grit and gravitas. So I was like, well, you must not be able to pastor till you're 50 because you can't have that voice at 30. But by 36, I was already pastoring while I was simultaneously senior supervising producer of series and specials at Black Entertainment Television.
Now, did you find a conflict with that? Well, in the Black church, did you find like, oh, you're doing that secular stuff?
So secular. So you know me. I start every speech. I was born a black, fat, asthmatic, gay nerd in the projects of Southwest DC, and fought about every one of those every day. So everything that people found as contradiction, God uses confirmation for me. I remember the preacher who came in speaking about this, and I was like, God, I thought we were good. When I pray about tests, you give me an A. You always help me to find the answers and find the words. So if what that man said is true, take it. I haven't done anything yet, take it. But I thought we were okay, and if you love me, I need a sign that, that who I am is well with you. And I promise you, Angela, the next day I went to school, and a boy I'd liked since elementary school, and by this I'm 15, and, in junior high school, he came to me and said, I don't know what, but last night something told me to tell you I like you. was all the confirmation I needed. Me and God have been brilliant. So, you know, it has been, when they say nothing can separate you from the love of God, there is nothing that's been said since then to me that has even made me flinch. So I
Wow.
asked, so Natalie Cole asked me once, I know this name drop it. So Natalie Cole asked me one time, you know, how was it that I found this sense of peace with being who I am and being a man of faith, you know, and she said, because her own brother had denounced his sexuality before he died from AIDS. And so she said, how were you so okay? And God just, it's almost like God said, say it, say it. And God said, I said, sweetheart, God keeps on doing great things for me, and God knows it's me. So, you know, for all these people who have sex in the dark and who smoke around corners like, you know, people can't see, God can see it. Everything that's happened to me, God gets the glory. So there is no hesitation because I know you, you know, I have sat in the room this close to Lena Horne. I've traveled the world, you know, with producer behind my name. I couldn't have done that as a boy from the projects. I don't even know how I went to college.
Wow. Wow. You know, I think we really believe we can hide from God.
When I tell you the complicated conversations I've had with people that were all about hiding. But think about it. It's because we hide from God, because we hide from our destiny, because we hide from our truth, because many of us hide our light. You know the words, if you gotta light a candle and put it under a rock, and many of us hide our light under the rock. I just have, you know, I have just seen time and time again and how people have, God is their mother, God is their father, God is a voice that they've heard on earth that they replicate and duplicate from heaven. I can't do that. I couldn't possibly do that. How could that happen to me from where I'm coming, you know, coming from where I'm from? But
I know. I talk to so many people who mean well, and their greatest desire is to please God. That is their greatest desire. And they got all these gifts in them that God gave them. But they won't use them because they feel like it will somehow take them out of the presence of God. It will somehow take them not be approved by whoever is supposed to be doing the approving instead of just doing it.
And it's so sad because, you know, that there's that PBS documentary that's out now talking about the one that Henry Louis Gates said called The Black Church, and how many have been beat up and belittled and bereft over this idea that you do something so successful that it'll take you from God, when that is the confirmation of God. You know, Oh Happy Day on television as a #1 hit. That's God. You brought the sunshine from the Clark Sisters playing in the club. People who've been told, get out, God don't love you, God don't like you. And then you hear You Brought the Sunshine by the Clark Sisters or Fall Down in the club. If you go looking for God, God will come looking for you.
He'll come looking for you. And everybody's called to a certain, you know, some people are called to preach in church. Other people are called to minister wherever they are. We're all called to take our gifts all over the place. But the greatest, I think, slap in the face, if you will, to God is to not use his gifts.
It's to not. Listen, somebody asked me once, Queen, what is it that you hope you hear the master say when you get home? And I've said it since I was in my 30s, as long as I've had the thought of it come to me. I want to be able to get to heaven. I was like, y'all come here. Boy, you did that. I just want you to know you did that. I just want you to know you did that. You did that.
You did that.
Remember that time what you did? What is wrong with you that you did that in that place? You did that.
Boy, you did that. Boy, you did
Boy,
that. I'm looking at
that.
you now. Listen, I'm not God, and I'm not nowhere near, I ain't no preacher. I ain't none of that. I do it on occasion, but I'm looking at you based on how long I've known you and what I see you doing in the community, and I can look at you and say, boy, you did that. You are doing that.
So for me, like, Angela, I want you to understand this little boy. So this is a laugh. You know, we got all this, everybody doing their talk shows now. In 1976, 77, there were no, I couldn't do a fake talk show. I couldn't do, so Natalie Cole was just a guest on my couch. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Kevin Taylor Show, Miss Natalie Cole. And because I knew so much about her, because she's my favorite singer, I used to literally do this back and forth banter with her. She was on my show at least twice a week. And to move from there, and again, the journey, right? And to move from there and find myself inside Black Entertainment Television, and I could have just been the executive assistant to the director of music programming, but somebody came along and said, go home and write questions for Natalie Cole. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then when I come back and she reads the questions the next day, Cindy Mahmoud, I want to say her name out loud. Cindy Mahmoud says, I've decided who's doing the interview. And I was like, Donnie Simpson. She gonna say Donnie Simpson. She said, you. And I was like, oh my God, for what show? She said, I don't know, create it. And I was like, wait, what do you, that's not how this happened. She says, it's how it's happening for you because you got something. And I'm telling somebody out there, when you come up and show up in your something, people will come against you. They will talk about you. They will dig up dirt and make up dirt. And you must stay the course and show and prove, because the Natalie Cole special, I swore would have been the only opportunity I would get, because on my list is Natalie. And so for the next one, you know, Luther Vandross was on tour. He comes calling. I was like, wait, I get to do another one? Wait, how is this happening, you know? And then, you know, Natalie begat Luther, Anita Baker, Lena Horne. That begat Stevie Wonder and Patti LaBelle in the same week.
What was the formula? What made them call Kevin E. Taylor?
So let me tell you what happened. So, you know, you've done many a junket, right? Mm-hmm. And so you sit in this space and there's one camera facing you and one camera facing the journalist. So people can have this, see this exchange. Mm-hmm. God told me that you're going to have two cameras. Put one of them on the artist. Put the other around them. And speak to that cameraman and tell him, you are my emotion camera. I need you to make me feel what they're saying. I want you to catch the tear before it comes out of their eye. I want you to be able to catch every shift in energy so that it speaks for them while one camera is speaking to them. And that's, you know, it was that. And just, Angela, not being ashamed. A lot of people in the entertainment industry behind the scenes can get a bit of, you know, kind of, you know, the talent, and I'm the producer. And so to be both was allowed me to bring to the table personal experiences. You know what I mean? So to be able to talk to Natalie was Natalie, but to be able to talk to Luther about the first time I saw him in concert at Capitol Center in DC, or to be able to talk to Anita Baker about being at the taping of her One Night of Rapture at Constitution Hall, or to be able to, you know, to have Tina Turner. Tina Turner had this moment when she was talking about, I asked her how she, Let's Stay Together got on American radio when she, in fact, didn't have any radio support in America. She had a record label. And she told the story of this DJ who was quite influential, started playing it, and then other people started playing it, and then Capitol Records came calling, and and she was rocking and trying to figure his name. And, you know, and she looks like, I can't think of his name right now. And while she's doing that, God in this ear said, give it to her. And I was like, no, give it to her. So she came back down, and I said, Frankie Crocker, yes.
Yeah.
And then she kept talking, right?
Yeah.
And so when we went to break, she leaned back like this, and she said, I like you. You're different. You're not like everybody else. And I was like, oh. Why? And so, you know, we finished the interview, do the hug and kiss, and she leaves, and my executive producer, Verna Dickinson, was there too. And I said, Verna, why did she say that? Because as a boy who'd been a fat black asthmatic gay nerd in Project Southwest DC, I had been belittled and challenged in so many ways that I almost didn't know me outside of my utilitarianism to people. Oh, he's smart, so he can help me with papers. Oh, he's smart, he can do the shopping. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so to have somebody see me and then be her, and I said, why did she say that? And Brenda said, you don't get it, do you? She said, every other producer would have said the answer out loud to get credit, and you gave it to her, which is what the voice said in my ear. And so when those two matched, I walked outside of the Hotel Intercontinental in Copenhagen, Denmark, and wailed. It was a Sunday, and I'm talking about snot, and because finally somebody had seen me and wasn't ashamed to say it, and didn't see me in all my bigness and think I already knew it. Because sometimes we don't compliment people because we're like, that girl full of herself. She already knows she's beautiful. Yeah. Don't tell him that, because he's gonna get big. He's gonna get a big head because he already knows, and they didn't know I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know.
Well, you don't carry I didn't know to, you don't really, when you look at you, you don't see I don't know.
Right. So then everybody is, and it's funny because I went to a wedding once with some friends, and as we were leaving, one of the women said, "So, Pastor, I'll see you at the reception." And her wife leaned in and said, "When are these people gonna figure out you an introvert?"
I'm the
I said,
same.
probably never. Right, because we turn on for the moment that needs it, and then when it's come down, it's come down,
It comes down.
and
I
so
remember
people,
saying to my husband one time, "Wow, about some friend." I was somewhere, and I said, "Wow, she did. She never was. I awful because so and so didn't say anything. So was it awful?" Scott said, most people think you know.
people think you know you're stunning, think you know you're gifted, think you know you're amazing, and so they go, "Well, I don't," and because people can be so shrug offering with, "Oh, you were amazing. Oh, thank you." You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, why bother to give you the compliment if you're just going to throw it back at me anyway? So it's a thing that needs nurturing, needs loving, and the only way we do it is get to sister, brother, love on one another at everything we do, at every chance we get to do it.
Amen. Amen. Now, Kevin, you've written what, 10 books?
The ninth and 10th come out this year. Yeah.
I counted.
Good count, and good count, and good accountable.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Now, when did you know you were an author?
Listen, let me tell you this story, because it's
Michelle
hot in this
Hollinger.
office. Huh?
Michelle Hollinger, listen to this now, because Michelle Hollinger is a good friend of mine. She's an author. She writes books on worthiness, about being
Okay.
worthy, and I see her down there. So
So
Michelle
Michelle,
Hollinger.
let me give you this story real quick, Michelle. So the way it goes is I was at BET. So I've been at BET since 91. Around 96, 97, things started to get really wonky, transition, people fear. And there was this conversation about some layoffs. And I was like, it's not well with my soul here. So I don't know how because I was just going to quit. And God said, hold on. And so the layoffs allowed me to get paid for an extended amount of time. And then what happens is right after I signed the paperwork to be laid off, furloughed. Bev Smith, remember Bev Smith and Our Voices?
Yes.
Bev Smith said, "Come over to the news department." She said, "We're going to the Holy Land, and I want you to come with me." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "God, I needed some sign of what to do next." But the Holy Land, we get there, and I promise you, I went before above the tomb of Christ while she was doing some interviews with the Ethiopian monks, and I just wanted to say a prayer of thanksgiving. When I got up, I said, "Thank you, Jesus." Then I said, "Thank you, Jesus." Then I kept saying it. And then I was like, what? And so I went to walk thinking it'll just fall off of me, and it didn't. I walked into crowds of people, it didn't stop. I went back to the spot and went back down. I was like, did I not finish the prayer? It wouldn't stop. Then the crew had finished, and they all came home, and they were like, "Kevin, what's wrong?" And I was like, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you." And I was like, oh my God, if you're about to make me do the "if I had 10,000 tongues, it wouldn't be enough to say thank you, thank yous," I surrender. And then it just, I think Bev or somebody touched me on my back, and it just stopped, and I collapsed. And then we went to the beach, there where the Dead Sea is, with the sea salts. And I hid because I was like, I already feel like something weird is happening here. So I hid, and I was off down the beach. And two of the African Hebrew Israelites, the African Americans who went back to Israel under the law of return,
Right.
They came and found me and said, "Brother, it's time," and walked me into the Dead Sea. And I cannot swim. And they were like, "Brother, listen. Trust God. And just sit down like you're sitting before the Lord." And I sat down and my feet popped up. And I was like, "What's happening? What's happening?" Then they had me lay back until everything was in the water. I set my head. Then my head went in the water, and it's like my skull opened up, and the sun came this close. And God was like, "Tell them I'm with you." And I was like, "What? What? What?" And I said, "Hallelujah." And the two brothers were like, "I said hallelujah." And I was like, "Nope, I ain't talking to y'all. Hallelujah." And then the crew started to assemble. And they were like, "What's going on? Is Kevin all right?" And then I screamed it till my throat got raw. And then these people were like, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah," and just up and down the beach. And I got out, and God was like, "Write about that." And I was like, how can I write when I'm unemployed, when I'm afraid that the job I've taken after BET is half the salary and my mortgage ain't half, hello? And so I'm just pressing towards this thing. And let me tell you what, so the examples, they're real quick, y'all. So what happened is then I almost lose my house, and then I'm like, you ever been quietly suicidal? You ain't gonna do nothing. But if you died, it'd be all right. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, and so I sat on the floor every day waiting to die. And one day I walked past the TV and God stopped me. And I turned on at 3:59 and Oprah came on. And she had a woman on talking about sacred contracts and your divine purpose. And I was like, okay. My hands went up and then the phone rang, which I had not answered in weeks. And it was my mother. And she said, baby, what's wrong with you? The Lord told me something's wrong with you. And I poured out of my mouth, I'm about to lose a house. They sent a notice about owing $5,000. I had $4,500, but I wrote the check anyway and I sent it. And I know it's probably bounced and they're going to come, da, 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 da. My mother had me meet her at the bank the next day. Then she threw $600 at me because she was mad that I didn't ask her for money. But I'm thinking, I'm the one on Capitol Hill with the BET job and you're a housekeeper. And then so God rebuked that. Went home. My brother had thrown money through my mahogany hardwood floors through the mail chute, so I had to get on my knees to pick it up because it was Chris dollars, Chris 20s from the ATM, and I had to get on my knees to get them. And God said, well, why are you down there? Let's get this. Let's have this conversation. And so that's 96, that's 97, 98. Then I ended up going back to BET by the same woman who brought me in to produce. Then they have me produce a special that covered 12 hours of programming. Then we moved to New York. Then I get made pastor. Then August 25th, 2001, I am with Aaliyah on the island of Abaco, Bahamas, doing an access granted because I had to preach in Baltimore. I got on a 1 o'clock flight. By the time I got to my hotel in Baltimore at 6, 8 people I just spent the last 4 days with were dead. And I was supposed to be on the plane. One of the women who died, Gina Smith, I speak her name, Gina Smith was saying, I know I promised you access to Lily the whole time, but she really needs her privacy. I was like, I'm not shooting on the plane. It's okay. So she wrote the change of my itinerary on a piece of paper out of a spiral notebook, which is still on my altar. Wait for it. So there's that. And I get home and I've got all the last footage of Aaliyah on my hands. And I was like, so here, y'all. And they were like, Kevin, this stuff has to be on the air in the morning. Nobody else knows what's on it. So I sat up all night. While a PA had the assignment of wiping my nose and rubbing my back while I went through footage. Then I was on with Brian Gumbel that morning, Entertainment Tonight, MTV, VH1. I mean, literally, paparazzi at the door. It was madness. And so there were a couple of weeks of that. And then it was like, are you ready to go back to work? I was like, please, because sitting at home by myself is great. And so here comes Angela. So then, and y'all wonder, you're going to see where this all comes to a head, Michelle. My boss, when I get back to work that Monday, says, are you okay? I'm okay. All right, I need you to get ready to go shoot in LA. And so she tells me I'm going to do 2 more access granted. And then she says, so, oh, this is stupid. They have you leaving out of Newark and you live in Harlem. Let me get this changed to LaGuardia. Go home, pack next morning. And the next time I boarded the plane was Tuesday, September 11th at 8:46 on an American Airlines flight going to Los Angeles. They put us down in Kansas City, and Penny McDonald, senior creative director, called me and said, oh my God, you're okay, you're okay. And I said, what? She said, that's right, we took you off that plane. The plane you were supposed to be on hit Tower 2. And I said, do you have enough now?
What?
Do you have enough to write about now? Because you were talking about worthiness. Then who wants to read a book from me? You did write about that now. You got enough now?
Oh, Kevin.
Yeah. So that fire is like, I don't have time. I don't have time to wonder or worry when I don't know what thing was going to happen next to be able to get my attention. It's like, okay, God, let's go, let's go, let's go. Like now, if you see me and say, oh, hey, Pastor, if you could pray with me, don't pray for me, just pray with me. In the supermarket, on the street, on a bus, I'll pull, oh, hey, Pastor, pray for me. Let's go. Because, I don't have the time to hope that I heard God the first time. I don't have the time to, to try to fit it into my schedule. Because if we're both here, then now is now.
And once you started writing,
once I started writing, it came from every direction. It started pouring because I wrote Unclutter, which was my first book, Unclutter, Cleanse Your Spirit and Claim Your Stuff. I wrote it like it was the last book I was ever going to write. So honestly, my like notes and acknowledgments are like 20 pages because I was like, I'm pouring out to everybody because I will never write another book. And read another author's book, and it was a fiction, a novel. And by the time I finished, it's A Long Blue Moon by L.M. Ross, this brother out of upstate New York. And by the time I finished, I was in the floor in tears. It was just so well crafted. And then God says, do that. And I realized that some people were afraid of the lessons in Unclutter because it's 100 lessons, life lessons, to delve into the old stuff that people put into you, discover who you're supposed to be without people shooting on you, and then design your life as God commissioned it to be. And so each of the chapters, a page and a half, like that old Acts of Faith, you know what I mean? And then each of them is a song title. So I was like, this is fun, this is fun, this is fun, this is good. But sometimes, I remember this one woman said to me, she said, you know, I thought this was going to be some cute little book I could go through in a week or so. She said, I got to Revelation number 21 and threw that book across the room. Because Revelation 21 said that people have to be performing their habit 21 times in a row before it sticks. You haven't been doing the work, have you? And they were like, she was like, God, God, God. And she threw it. She's like, let me start all over again. And so when I realized that from her, that people were getting stuck in the lessons, you know, being facetious, placating themselves in the lessons, I said, what would this be like, the process of uncluttering, if I wrote a novel with a character doing the work? And that's how Jaded came forward. You know, somebody who had had their heart broken after a relationship and for 5 years was buried in work, and then meets the connection that feels like everything, like hope, like possibility, like love. And is he open to it, or was he jaded? And the tagline is Jaded. What do you do when you're through with love, but love's not through with you?
Oh. Oh.
And that prayerfully is going to also be my first motion picture. The script's done and screenplay's done, and I have to let friends who do brilliant things like you look at it and say, is this a story? Because that's what I did when I wrote the novel. I was like, this will work. And there were people like, oh my God, this works. So,
I would love to look at it. Tell the people about your latest book so they can So
I think what the pandemic has caused so many of us to do, people who are doing this work, who've found ways to do, you know, art and spirit, are people who are finding new ways to do the work of self-care at every level. But the first step for me was those of us who have found self-care to be a dirty word, either from the energy within ourselves or people from outside, as you said, who think we're fine. Oh my God, she knows she's beautiful. She's got a husband and her mom is there, a beautiful child. Her life is wonderful. And so those voices run around your head, making you feel like, I can't stop. I have no right. I have no reason. All is well. And so it's the unpacking of that voice in your head that makes you feel like taking care of you and self-care is selfish. And so its title is Self-ish. Like the idea that being mindful of you and taking care of the self is some ish. So it's self-ish. Get full of yourself without guilt. So it's, you know, it's get full of yourself without guilt. And the idea that we have to unpack self-worthiness, self-appreciation, deal with the stuff that's self-deprecating, all of this self stuff. And it's going to come with its own guided journal. One of my young people was like, Pastor, I need a guided journal to go with it. And that was good because it just allowed me to extract the exercises that were in the book and make them a separate journal. And so, you know, March, you know, when we were talking about doing this, I was like, I have to have March 1st. That's my favorite day because March 1st is my impact day. It is my January 1st. All right, it's a new year. Let's get to it. I don't want to do anything in January. It was cold and wet. February when people saying you ain't got nobody, you single. It's like March. It's an order. It's a mandate. It's a verb, and it reminds you every day you call it out that you have something to do. And this is the one, March 1st. Like God said, if you want what you want from me, head toward it, and I'll meet you on the road. Wow. Because if you ask me for it from here, and I'm going to do it down there, what I'm going to do if you're still here?
Yeah.
Go for it. Children go where I send thee, huh?
Yes.
So I'm excited about having these worthiness conversations, these self-love conversations, these what it means to take care of you conversations, what it really means to check in on your strong friends. Because when you say that, people are like, well, I'm the strong. What do you mean just the strong friends? I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Because we're the ones who called or ask a friend to hope we can get a friend's listening ear. And then the conversation becomes all about them. We just smile and grin and bear it.
Oh my
because
God.
We must be fine.
It is so true. I mean,
for me, that, you know, for me, sis, that is almost the way people are so quick to ask an artist to do their thing for free. Like, you get to do it, right? You know, when artists come to church, people are like, Pastor so-and-so's here, you want to ask her to sing? No.
No.
Because I don't want to go to somebody's afternoon service and they go, oh, Pastor Taylor's here. Would you come up and give a word? I mean, I'm prepared, but do I want to after preaching twice in the morning? No. And a singer doesn't want to come to church, especially, if the word and knocked them out and laid them at the altar. And then you'd be like, well, ask her to do a closing selection. I will not.
No.
I will not. Can so-and-so design the book? I don't know. Do we have it in the budget? Because I'm not going to ask them to do what they do as a tithe when I'm not there. What I'm not there. So.
And also as caregivers, as you are, you're a caregiver to, everybody. And when you take time with people, when they tell you that something is going on in their lives, you don't respond with a 2-sentence text. You try to figure out, how can I give you something? How can I give you a word to go with you? But if you, on the other end, tell someone something you're going through, which you rarely do, then when you get, I'm praying for you, sis, it's like, okay, thank you.
Right, thanks. That's all you heard? Thanks. Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
The best thing
let me tell you this. When I tell you, yes.
Keep people around us it's only gonna be 1, 2, maybe 3. And the rest of them, you take their 2-sentence text and say, okay, I didn't even expect anything more. But you have those ride or dies that are gonna check in on you, and
exactly.
That makes everything okay.
It makes everything okay. Yeah. And it's just good because there's something in these kind of soul connects that are instant. When I met you and Scott, it was instant. So let me tell y'all quickly how we met. So in 2017 at the LGBT Culture and Music Fest in San Juan, Puerto Rico, I'm there selling books, and then I'm supposed to bring a word at the gospel brunch. Go up to do the gospel brunch, and I was like, and one of the guys as I was walking, he was like, I hope you ain't doing a speech and you plan on preaching. And I was like, oh, okay. Y'all gonna, it's a Sunday. Don't tempt me. And so I get up there and we go into Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how imperative it is that if you want what God has for you, to stop hovering and get in the fire. Because God didn't meet them outside, but rather expected you to be where I called you to be, where I dared you to be. And so that just unpacked for about, it wasn't long, it was about 15 minutes, but it caught fire instantly. And when I came down the stairs from the stage, Angela and Scott Whitehurst were arm in arm like my parents. Baby, and I was like, and in the moment, because it was Sunday morning, we'd had had we met at the night event already? No, that was our first. Briefly. Just briefly, just like, but this was, I was like, and I needed it because people don't realize that, when you get a chance to unpack a 30-minute sermon, that kind of has a chance to live in your body for a minute. When you got to hit those 15 minutes, Pastor, and you got to hit those, and so you just grab the bat when you get to the microphone, it can be exhausting in your spirit. I felt like I was on fire. I felt like I was going to collapse. I felt like I needed a gallon of water, and I walked right into the arms of love and resuscitated. It was you and your husband manifested for me immediately. I'm so glad that he found me in time. I'm so glad that he rectified my mind. From Natalie Coast, this will be. It was like, okay, I'm up. I'm okay. Hey, where are you from? You from Jersey? I'm from Jersey. We're going to stay connected. That was it. It wasn't a whole lot of...
And then after that, we ran into you in a restaurant. And let me just say, Scott and I are, we love people, but when we have our moment, we don't want to be, we're not the kind of people that want to join you for dinner.
Right.
Because we're just happy to have a little moment together. And we saw you at this restaurant and you said, join us. And we were like, okay. Which was rare for us. We would normally say, no, we don't want to impose on you. We sat down and it was like, I'm telling you, we have since that, it wasn't very long, y'all. Since that, we have stayed in touch on social media. I had an event in the city. This lovely man came. I still have a necklace he gave me. Do you remember that necklace?
Yes, absolutely.
But he is just anointed and beautiful. One of the
It
most
was.
beautiful people I have met, and we really hadn't spent that much time together. But I was
We,
like, I'm coming to your church. I'm coming to your
right?
church.
And remember, I was like, you just said you were at the Paper Mill Playhouse, remember? And I was like, where are you? I just drove past it. Our energies were just doing that in the car. And you were like, what? I was like, I just drove past it. Then the same second you posted, I must be on the other side of
Yeah.
the very sign that you're on. It just felt like that. And then we did, just in this process, I created a format called 11, 11, and 11.
That's right.
And Angela came on, and and I was like, in the research, I was like, so wait a minute. When is your birthday?
September
She
7th.
said September 7th, September 4th. And I was like, when is your mother's birthday? And the same mother's birthday. And then I was like, wait, what's happening? What's happening? And it got all the way here because in doing the lineup, I had not realized that you were in the production of The Color Purple with that, was it the LaChange one?
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, wait a minute. No. Because I waited outside and I hugged LaShawn, I got to hug Felicia. I remember getting a quick autograph from Elizabeth because she had a car that went by. And I was like, and I hugged three of the, I was like, Angela, I think I hugged you. I was like, because I remember those eyes. My brother and I was like, look at her. She's so pretty. Because your eyes pop like a fawn. And he was like, I saw my David. He's like, that's the girl. That's the chorus girl. She's the one that had on the pic. We hugged her. And I was like, come on. So this energy was intended a long time ago, and God was like, what's taking y'all so long? So this is catch up. This is hurry up and connect. So
you got me forever. Scott said,
forever.
who are you interviewing today? I said, Kevin Taylor. He said, Kevin Taylor. I said, Kevin from Puerto Rico. He said, oh, tell him. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to backtrack just for a second before because almost every question I had, we've been flying. We got it. But I just wanted to backtrack for everybody who's listening because Kevin said something that I think is vital for all of us to take. He said that when he got the voice spoke in his spirit to write, he was unemployed and had no money. And had no job and had no all of this. He was at home contemplating suicide. Was not going to do anything, but it would have been okay.
It would have been okay if I just stopped living.
So all I want you to do, everybody that's listening today, for those of you that are waiting to do something that has this thing percolating inside, and you're waiting to write this book, do this play, make this film, paint this painting, all these things you're waiting to do. And things are so bad right now. I'm telling you, in the valley is where the call comes. And so if you're in a deep valley right now is the time to be obedient so that you can move forward.
And let me tell you something, because this might be a piece of information to somebody that will increase your peace and give you peace. You are in a valley right now because a valley is by definition a low place between two mountains. So that means you might have had some high times and some good season, and in this valley, you're still comparing them to the mountain you came from. And God says this valley is to prepare you for the mountain you get ready to go to. If you just painted the pretty parts, that's what people get caught up in, distractions and designer clothes and living the high life so that my life looks as good as what's happening. It is these valley experiences. You got to make peace with your valley, because the word says that I will make your valley even lower so that I can get some running water going through it to guide you where you need to go. I'm telling you that I have seen God's grace in my low places. The story after almost losing the house goes like this. I take the money from my mom and from my brother, take it to the bank, thinking, okay, let me put this money in here, and I ain't got no food in the house. Let me put it in here so this check can clear. I'm gonna take a little bit out because my project background can allow me to take just 20 from this and spread it over a whole week until God provides and does something else. So I take 20 out and get ready to go to the supermarket. Then I think, oh my God, what if I need this 20 to cover some fees? So I call back to the bank. Here it comes, wait for it. I called back to the bank with the only $20 I got, assuming that all the rest that I put in the bank covered the check I wrote and the fees, the gap in the difference and the fees. Hello, somebody? I call Miss Noble, Miss Sheila Noble, I will always speak her name, from outside the Safeway, saying, Miss Noble, I just put some money in the bank and I need to see if check number blank, blank, blank cleared because I had to write it a week ago and FedEx it to the mortgage company. And now I'm afraid that it has bounced, and I need to know if the money that I put in was enough to cover it. She puts me on hold. This woman at a bank at work comes back. She said, baby, do you know the Lord? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, and don't you know the Lord knows you? I said, yes, ma'am. You know, and I'm waiting for whatever it is she get ready to say. And she said, baby, you put that money in here at 137. That check cleared at 139. I was like, wait, so they didn't bounce? She said, baby, it just got here after you put the cash deposit in. So whatever else it is you need to do, if you got to get some food, to put it in your refrigerator. If you need to do something else with it, you got money sitting here because the check cleared 2 minutes after you put the money in. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's the last thing I remember before I fell out outside of the payphone at the Safeway. And some lady whose face I never saw was holding me and answered the phone. He said, okay, he all right. He all right. And she crying with me. He all right. He all right. And she hung up and just held me for a minute. I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay. She dried my tears and then helped me up. And then I never saw her again. I never saw like a back or body. I never saw who helped me up.
Angel.
I'm telling you, I got a dozen of them about moments where some entity stepped in when no human being thought I needed support, that thought I needed help, thought that by my bigness, by my work, by my evidence, I got evidence, I got confidence. They think, well, God got him, he don't need me. Yeah, we do. Because we're heaven's hands, as Nancy Wilson said. So it's that kind of, that kind of grace that has shown up in my life. And
yeah.
Somebody said favor ain't fair.
Oh my goodness. And it will show up in your life too. So I'm telling you, if you're in a down place, if you're in a valley, work on your craft, work on what's in you and get it together. Because here's the thing about the mountaintop. See, everybody wants to wait till they get to the mountaintop. Everybody want to wait till they got all the money to produce the album. Everybody want to wait till they get to, but here's the thing about a mountaintop. There's no time for all that. It's no time for creating at the mountaintop. You better have your stuff. You better have your product. You better have your company. You better have all that. Because once you get to the, ain't no time to be getting all that.
Ain't no creative time at the mountaintop. That's why there ain't a whole bunch of people up there at the summit.
You better have studied. You better have gone to your classes and learned your craft. Because at the mountaintop, people are going to be like, come on, let's go. Come on. They're not going to be like, well, she going to take a class and she'll come.
You need to be patient with her. She's nervous. Ain't nobody force her on the stage. If you want me on the stage to sing. Otherwise, sit down.
That's right. So I'm telling you, in your valley, this is the time. Work on that book. You might not be able to even pay for the paper to print it on, but work it on. Because once you're on the mountaintop, they could say, you're so good. We wish you had a product to sell. You'd be like, I got a book, boo. I got a book. Let's print that.
The book. Look, what's your email? Let me send it to you right now. I got a PDF on the
I got songs I've written. So I'm telling you, utilize your valley.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Make peace with your valley.
Make peace with your valley. Oh, I love that. So it's something your mom said that's still been on my mind. Save everybody and let the Lord sort it out.
Mm-hmm. So as an openly gay preacher, people have had moments. I've been on VH1, the Al Sharpton show, Kojo Nnamdi show, American Exchange, and people with Tony Brown. And there's always this thought that, well, you must only be preaching to people like you. That has happened when somebody's mom has passed, and I go to their family church, and I've asked to officiate the certain pastor. Like, all right now. Right. And then you leave them stepping over bodies, and they don't expect that the anointing breaks the yoke. You know what I'm saying? And so when Mama said save everybody, Mama said, please don't be so anything that you can't receive everybody. So when people come into my church, it's I love those occasions when the whole family has come to christen a baby. 30, 40 people, and the next Sunday, 30, 40 people come back. Oh, no, last week was just for the baptism. We came for a word. We was talking about it at the picnic yesterday. And so we all decided we was coming to church. And, and my ministries that are a configuration of the lesbian woman and her wife and her sister and the sister's husband and their children and the children's best friends. And they're like, everybody's at this church. I had a Sunday where one of my deacons came into the clergy room while we were prepping. They said, Pastor, why didn't you tell us the mayor was going to be here? I was like, what's going to be where? The mayor's outside the door. And I was like, well, what for? He said, yeah, I was downtown for an event. I was downtown at the hotel for an event, and I needed a word. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know how many mega churches there are in this city? You know how many old cathedrals that are in the historical register, and you came to this house and stayed all day? And when the altar call happened, you was right up front. And so it's, when Mama said everybody, she meant everybody. I love, when I've loved those occasions, like at the opening in our new building, where I looked, I was like, those are people from work. There's my brother and his wife, and my sister-in-law. There's, people from BET. There's noted people that people like, is that Moni? Is that, why are they here? Because they're pastors for, and just those moments when it's like, I'll call it living with the lights on. I don't have any compartmentalized divisions in my world. Everybody that know me. We could be out at the club, and if Did Not Bring You Up came on and I Shall Not Be Moved come on the dance floor, the people will move for the pastor to shout.
Yes. Listen, they want to know, the audience wants to know the name of the church.
It's Unity Fellowship Church Newark. So it's Newark with a capital A. So Unity Fellowship Church Newark.
Yeah. And you're soon to be bishop, right?
Well, that's what it's looking like. So, and I even thank God for that. You know what it's like? Just literally one day back in 2016, the call came to come online and do Bible study. We started at Genesis 1:1, and we were walking our way through. And to look up and be like, hey, Bishop so-and-so, hey, Pastor so-and-so, hey, Pastor. And they're like, you got as many clergy on here in Bible study as you do lay folk. And we had a dude come on from Muscles something, Iowa. And he's like, I don't know how I got here, but I sure needed to be here. One young man was like, I don't know you, and I don't know who invited me, and I don't know the people that invited me in this room, but this is exactly what I needed. And it's like, it's so powerful to me, Queen, that people don't realize that God's word can stand up to inquisition. I don't understand in the beginning who wrote that. Let's unpack that, Adam, let's unpack that, let's unpack Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's not be afraid of it, so that you can see that you ask questions about, like when Moses you call the people of Israel, you undignified rebels. And he's like, you just keep on opening your mouths. And God was like, just give them the water from the rock. Why'd you have to curse them? For that reason, you will not make it into the promised land. And I said, well, what if Moses had asked for forgiveness? I mean, what does grace look like, right? I slipped up me in my mouth. What if he had just realized that time? What if I just asked for grace? Because what if you slipped up one more time than you thought you would ever be able to survive and you're not dead? Because if you're not dead, God's not done. Somebody leave you here to be imprisoned in your pity. Just seek grace, speak grace, son. Try God again. And so just those conversations have just been, I now, we go to Bible study now, we have people who are on Facebook and on Zoom, right? Because at one point it was just me talking out. There wasn't any technology, 16, 17, where people could, I could see the people back in.
Right.
And Facebook Live still doesn't look like that. You can bring one person on, but you can't. And so it's powerful to be in rooms by myself when 40, 50, 100 people are gathered. And now we get on Zoom, and one of my best friends from 5th grade is there every week, Minister Mike. He's like, hey, brother, Pastor. And I'm like, people who know me as Cal call me Brother Pastor. Hey, Bishop. And it's like, and they still know who I am, how I love, how I build that. And it's like, God keeps on doing great things for me. Yeah. And God knows it's me. My mama used to come up to our church 3 weeks out of the year, twice a year, and just be in the congregation. My mother would disappear for days after church, come home on Wednesday. And I was like, is this why when you come up here, you come with these small suitcases? Because my church going to treat you like Queen Mother, and she go back home with a double bag. I was like, Mama, who bought all this stuff? Ain't none of your business, So I had liked, and they bought it. You know what I mean? And so she just got. My mother was the world's mother. She was a personification of church mother, sanctified, had book bosom, beaded something somewhere on her suit. And so when she said, "Save everybody," she was the example, too. She was the example in our church on a Mother's Day in 1994, when she stood up and walked down the aisle singing, "Praise the Lord, everybody," and got to the front and said to this congregation, some of y'all are in pain because you're trying to get somebody to love you who don't love themselves. Wow. And she said, but Mama, I love you. She said, I got bosom big enough to love everybody. And she gave her phone number out from the front of the church. And somebody, cried out and asked for her number again, and she gave it out again. And then she finished preaching this little 3-4 minute word, but it was good. And then she walked back to her seat. There were people dropping, literally, like flies, because for all of that brokenness in the LGBT community, they couldn't believe that a church mother had come to this house. So what she commissioned me to do, she did. Love everybody. Let the Lord sort it out.
Let the Lord sort it out. Love everybody and let the Lord sort it out. You know, in this season, I just have a couple more questions. I know our time is short. But this is so good, Kevin. Thank you.
It's so good. It's so good. Thank you.
In this season, you know, of activism, the revolution, you know, thank God we got past the
insurrection.
But you know, you've been very active on social media, but you know, as a pastor, you know, in many ways I've and as a Christian too, and in many ways I've missed the church. I feel that we've missed the mark, and I just want to know how you feel about it, and you know, what we can do.
So again, so being blessed, Sister Queen, with the capacity to pastor a church like my mama claimed, I've got families of white parents with black children, black parents with white children. Huh? And so the community we're talking about, when we say these lives matter, we're speaking into those families. Little white girl, your mother matters. Little white woman, your son matters. And so the context from which they receive it is wrapped around the love and connection they have to a family. So these people who love and teach their children. And so, you know, to be safe in the house is to then make sure that people feel seen and heard and covered and connected when they go out into the world. So if they see me talking on something like this or something on the news, or they see me on Bible study or in church service, they know that, you know, that I put my mouth where my march is. And so it's just about being able to say to people, we're talking, you know, this same talk happens now as we begin Women's History Month, you know? It's like, all right, y'all, women take the pulpit. It's not, you know, is there Women's Day? No, it's a whole month. It's Women's History Month. Take the whole month.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit over there because it ain't, I got to be seen to be part of the, you know? And just, we have to work the work. We have to work the work. And so, you know, when I hit the streets, it's in a Black Lives Matter march, or, you know, we're speaking George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, Elijah McClain, Tony McDaniel. When we're speaking these names, it's not about me, literally. And if my loud, proud voice, you know, can show up and say something there, you know, then it does, because it must.
Wonderful. And leave our Asian brothers and sisters alone.
Listen, brothers, but listen, y'all don't, so, brothers, I'm talking to some particular brothers especially. Stop acting like you don't want Trump's people to do to you what you're doing to the Asian community. Stop all of this ignorance and punching old people and all of this stupid stuff, which is a real spillover from that gang stuff where people were walking up and punching people in the face. It's this same ugly outcry, you know, against people because you feel like somebody's against you. They weren't. And just like you weren't ballsy enough to go to Fifth Avenue, you burned down Harlem. They ain't willing to go down to Fifth Avenue and hit a white person. They're going to do it in that communities where they feel safe and believe that nothing's going to happen. And the response to it must happen from us. It must be the idea of, just like that Baltimore mother who realized in one of the marches for Freddie Gray that was her son, and she smacked him off the side of the head all the way home. We got some stuff to do in our own house, in our own community, but it starts in the conversations where we're listening to somebody, and you listen to somebody slip out, you know, that Kung flu. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. There is no funny aside. Only, you know, comedians have to deal with it. Hey, everything's a little funny. You're not a comedian. You're a garbage man. Stop acting like you get to make these little side digs, because you do it to them, they're going to do it to you.
Yeah, just stop the hate, period.
Stop it. Period.
Now, I just want you to share before we go, if you have two, but I think one might do because you got such doozies. I was going to ask you to share two stories from two of the artists that you worked with that would be like, we would love to hear something we might not know, some experience you had with Lena, Natalie, Patti LaBelle. I'm naming them now. And let me just tell you guys, Kevin was instrumental in launching the careers of, I wrote it down. I don't want to miss it. I want you to hear it. Of Maxwell, Brandy, Jill Scott, B2K, and Aaliyah. Yeah, that dude right there.
Listen, it's so beautiful to have had the moments to be a lover of music, right? So I'm gonna give you a new artist one and a legend one.
Thank you.
Because I was sitting at my desk at BET in a cubicle and literally heard this music waffling through the air, and it felt like maybe people want to shoot or something, because the whole entertainment side was empty except one of the producers. I was like, man, what is that? He's like, this artist they're trying to get us to do a little piece on. And so I take this white cover, this white, cardboard type CDs, one of the promo inserts, and put it on my desk and hear the most exquisite music I've ever heard. I don't know, since Stevie Wonder's, fulfilling this his first, final finale. It was this level of, songs in the key of life, and listening to it. And I get to this song that says, lead me on if you must, take my heart and my love. Take of me all that you want. And if there's a thing that you need, for you and your blood I will bleed. And if ever you yearn for the love in me, whenever, wherever, whatever. And I called Columbia. I was like, who is this? Who is this? I was like, is there any video for this? And they were like, yeah, he hasn't really been popping off, and so we're just trying to get him on a college show. I was like, send me the video. And and we started playing Maxwell, so the top cops come knocking in the top 20 when he wasn't even in the top 70, because I hadn't heard these words like this in so long. Lonely's the only company. And so he went from, the first single did well. Ascension, Don't Ever Wonder, went to #1. And so he finally came to BET, and he was like, he came down to take the whole music team to lunch. But he came to me and he was like, why? Like, what made you? Why? You called Michelle and asked for a copy of a video. You asked for a copy. Why? And I was like, if ever you yearn for the love in me. I was like, those words make me break down at my desk. And so that you crafted them and released them to us, I was like, that's diary stuff that people don't ever say to anybody. They don't even say it to the person they're in relationship with. You release it as a song. And so then my legend story, and it's funny that you list the name because that's how close our spirits are. I had this moment at the St. Regis Hotel, crew is prepped, and then there's legend, there's icon, there's legend, and then there's, and then Lena Horne walks in the room with some snatch back of a pixie cut of salt, pepper hair, a white t-shirt, a black cashmere sweater, these swinging black pants, and a funky boot. And I sit her down, and we're talking about her career. And I ask her the first question, and she answers it almost covering the dearth of her career, like, when you do a junket. I know how to, how to do those media bites so that they can get the thing in 45, 50 seconds. She answers me in about a minute and a half. I said, Miss Horne, we're going to be walking through your whole career. So we've got an hour and a half to be here. You don't have to rush. She says, young thing, what you know about my career? And I was like, ma'am, I promise you, everything there is to know about Lena Horne, I know about Lena Horne. And so it's funny to have had, you hear about Lena Horne and her place in history, but then to be able to unpack some of the moments, like she told the story of trying to find her way into stormy weather, So there was, and so, she's used to big bands and, these moments. And so here she's got to sing this song in the movie Up Against the Storm. And she's like, I just was struggling with it. She said, and Count Basie. And Count Basie pulled me over to the side because he was on the set. And he said, hey, bitch, let me tell you something. You get your ass. He said, there's some washerwoman out there that go to 3-4 white people's house a week and do their laundry and come home to a man that beat her. And she ain't got nowhere else to go because that's the father of her children, and she got to stay with him. Now you get your behind on that stage and sing about stormy weather for her if you don't know what it's about. And she says that's what she goes, stormy and wet, and falls up against the wall. She said that was real because he had really gut checked her about this song ain't about you. Your little well-privileged self and never had a maid. This is for the woman that's gonna come to see you in the movie. And and she told a story about going to sing before in Germany with the USO, and the white soldiers were in front. The white prisoners of war, the Germans, were in front of the black soldiers. And she came off the stage and went to the back of the hall to sing to the black soldiers. And the government said, get that bitch out of here. Once she finished, you get her out of here. And she says this, and I was like, Grandma, you know what I mean? It's like Grandma telling stories,
yeah.
And by the time she finished telling all these stories, you're like, oh yeah, So our people have been through some stuff, even the ones we see in Ebony magazine and Life magazine, with, you know, because, oh, you know, our generations in the past, all of their portraits looked like they were all icons. They were all superstars. I was like, that's just the picture you took at Sears? But, you know, so to know that Lena Horne had been through this kind of stuff, that she had marched and watched, sung with Dr. King, that she stood on that stage, and that she's still standing here this elegant, it was just a moment that blew my mind. And then at one moment she said to me, "You remind me of Billy Strayhorn." I cried for hours just because Lush Life is, I think, one of the greatest songs ever crafted.
Yeah. Wow. Kevin, of the younger ones, when they were new and you were just hearing them, what quality in them made you know that they were going to be the stars that they became?
So
that they may have had in common.
Something about, like, so there was a confidence, especially in, you know, sometimes it's a gravitas in young rappers, but there's a confidence to stand and sing sure-footed that you see rarely, like in the Monica and the Brandy. Almost when we as older folks say something about that child that seems old, you know what I mean? The sound of them, the vibrato in the voice, the way that they can do runs, and you're like, has this child been singing since they came out of the womb? Because that's a grown woman's note, you know what I mean? The way they knew what word to stretch and what word to bend. And so it's the capacity to be able to interpret the song, you know, even, you know, when Monica sang It's Just One of Those Days, you know, Brandy sitting up in my room, they were appropriate songs to their age, but they were always pumped by some emotionality that allowed an adult to sit with it and be like, yeah, I know what that little girl singing about one of them days. I had one of them days. You know, the girl older, the girl, the woman listening to it is old enough to be a mother, you know? But there was something in the authenticity with which they sang, you know, that made, you know, that sometimes you didn't get to see until you saw them in concert or they came on one of the programs to perform and you were like, oh, okay, there's something else here. And, you know, time, you know, that unfortunately we are in a place now. Remember when artists used to get their first 2 or 3 albums to find their sound and their style. And now you got 2 or 3 songs, if that. Now you got 2 or 3 minutes. And so back then they were right at that bridge of artists who had enough time that you could tell do this next album, I'm already waiting for it because we're going to see them grow. And so there was, you know, the Tevin Campbells who started singing at 12 and it's like, how is this boy there? Aaliyah's, God rest her soul, that you knew. Aaliyah was the one artist I was so looking forward to seeing mature and grow up because the first version of her was such a young girl and we watched the baggy and saggy become more streamlined and she started to find her way around her own young woman skin. And I was, you know, that More Than a Woman album, the last thing she left the earth, was just this whole kind of, I'm about to be 21 and here's my introduction to my grown woman. And so, you know, it's those moments of, you know, the way they can command the stage, you know, that you can still listen to that old stuff you heard from Michael Jackson as a little boy and be like, I don't know what old man is in that boy, but that win, that ain't something a 5-year-old should be able to do, but he did. And so we as a people have seen some rare supernovas cross our skylines. And so when I'm thankful to be able to have those moments. I used to even use my voicemail at BET to do an Artist of the Month. And so people heard Anthony Hamilton on my voicemail, Michelle and Dege Ocello on my voicemail before their projects came up. Because it was just, if you want to have this moment, use it. Young, old, to resurrect careers, to be able to say Stevie comes on too and Patty. You know, my first thing I did at BET was to say, hey, let's do Diva Week, because we never paid, you know, tribute to our legends. And we got Patty, Phyllis Hyman, Gladys Knight, Shaka Khan, and to be able to debate with my boss whether or not Phyllis Hyman was diva, because, you know, sometimes diva is hit, you know what I mean? And we do that. And luckily she was playing out in Wolf Trap around that time in the metropolitan area in DC. And she and her husband came, and Phyllis did Living All Alone. I Can't Stand This, Living All Alone.
Oh, yeah.
And in the middle of it, she does this whistle bridge, and I screamed out, call the bird, call him there. And all is lost, and she almost stopped whistling that. And by the time she finished the song, my boss said, yeah, you go backstage and book her, please. Go backstage and book her. It's just to have those kinds of moments. And then Phyllis Hyman came on for Diva Week and had her only #1 song in her career after we supported her.
Wow. Kevin, What a blessing you are.
It's
Who,
I'm telling
who are you listening to today? Who are you calling out today? That's
he has bounced back and forth between gospel, but the first name that came to my mind when you asked that was Molly Music. That boy, ooh,
Molly Music
that
is amazing.
he's a beast. He's a beast.
Yeah,
Molly Music is everything. And I don't care if he is Tone or B Slade. That dude,
yeah,
every time he puts out material, I'm on Bandcamp. Like, okay, let's download it. You
yeah, me
know,
too.
he won like 10 stellars off of Out the Box. And this year, 2020, he released Out the Box 2 and 3 simultaneously. And I was like, and 2 and 3.
Yeah,
So, you know, Molly Music, B Slade. And then, you know, there's just times when the sanctuary of the room is some old Aretha, it's some old Natalie, it's some old, you know, it's some classic stuff. That stuff will just, you know, sometimes you just have to round robin and hear, you know, Monica singing "That's Why I Love You So Much," and then Gladys comes on with "If I Were Your Woman." You
ah,
know, it's,
ah,
you know,
you can't
in
go
this
wrong
COVID
with
time, you got to go back to the shed. You
yeah.
know, I like some of these young kids, but I ain't trying to hear hits. I'm trying to hear heart.
Ah,
I want to holler and wave my hand by myself.
ah, I
That's
ain't
what
trying to hear hits. I'm trying to hear